What's up, everybody? It's Colton from MMOHuts.com, and today I am here with Ajax, lead designer for SMITE. We're going to be talking about a lot of things today. We're going to try to move through it kind of quickly because there's a match going on right now. So check it out. Very first thing I want to talk about is the new Egyptian Clash.
Sure.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about it. I know the video just went live kind of talking a little bit about it. Tell us more about what prompted it.
So the key thing was Clash is it was using an art style that was already on another game mode. So all of our game modes have different Pantheon themes. We really wanted to make sure we kept that going. We also really liked the Egyptian art set. We had an old map that people really liked the art from. We're like, this is an obvious choice for Egyptian. So Clash needed the art. Egyptian needed to be back in the game. Those things just met together perfectly.
Fantastic. Now, also, I wanted to make a note of that the new Phoenix, because there's a Phoenix, that's a Sphinx, rather.
Yes.
And instead of doing normal, like, rapid-fire shots or, like, the slower tower shots, it's a consistent laser beam.
Right.
How did you guys arrive at that idea? I know you were looking probably for something different than with the normal maps, but why the beam, and how is it different from how the Phoenix functions currently?
So it's actually more similar to the Phoenix than you'd think. It's still a series of damage you're taking. It's just quicker and starts lower. So just like a normal Phoenix, it's going to hit you. It's going to ramp up over time. This is just going to be smaller damage. It hits ramping up over time. So there's not really such thing as an actual true beam damage in SMITE. It's always just what the tick rate is.
How fast it is.
Right. So this is essentially a Phoenix with very high attack speed and lowered base damage that ramps up over time. We liked this idea because, one, the Phoenixes, we're going to aesthetically look different. When our art team was concepting them, they wanted this kind of like statuesque feel as opposed to the very organic ones. And we're like, this would be really cool if we also had a slightly different attack too, because robots kind of like shooting fireballs like that doesn't look as natural, doesn't look as good. And we had these kind of ideas from, other pop culture references and stuff like that of this kind of Egyptian laser beam feel. So it kind of was just a bit of an art design discussion. It wasn't something that we really set out to do, but we wanted to differentiate them, but make sure it was still recognizable. And we thought this was cool. And then testing went well. And then there you go.
Okay. And also another thing that's different, and I'm not sure if it's just an Egyptian Clash or regular Clash as well, because I haven't played regular Clash yet. Okay. But the buffs, the jungle buffs are going to be scaling.
Right.
Like as you progress through the game, the buffs are going to be more potent and or last longer. Can you give us some more details on that? Like
sure.
The specifics?
So this is the first time this has ever been a mechanic in SMITE. No other map did this. This is the first time, just on Egyptian Clash.
So it is new.
Brand new. And what happens is the red buff and the blue buff spawn as normal. They have normal blue buff and red buff stats. And then at a certain point in the game, I believe it's 10 minutes or so, the jungle camps will spawn again, and they'll have this like glowing powered up effects on them. And that's going to signify that, one, the buff is harder to obtain. The camp is harder to kill. It's going to do a lot more damage, going to have a lot more health. And then once you kill it, you'll pick up the powered up version of the buff, and that actually has increased potency, not duration. So the blue buff will give you better cooldown reduction and better mana regeneration. The red buff will give you more damage bonus.
Fantastic. So that is Egyptian Clash. We do want to talk to you about some of the Season 4 changes.
Oh, yeah, there's
so many. Now, the very first thing is bringing back upgradable relics.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, this was mostly a really big community request. Like all of our, especially our pros, everybody was like, we really liked the active system. They were maybe a little disappointed with some of the ways relics was done, but from our point of view, relics were extremely successful. We see way more people, way more players using them. But now that people have gotten used to them, this is a MOBA. People like depth, they like challenge. So we're like, let's add a couple extra choices here. So now you can upgrade the relics. The relic upgrading system is not too complicated. It's not as complicated as the old active system, but it does give you meaningful choice to spend your money and powering up your relics, especially in their like cooldown reduction or potency. And those can be really important late game. Or if you make the decision to actually do that before you finish your build, that's a really big risk reward. So we just really like that extra choice involved.
Right. Now, in the video actually talking about some of the Season 4 changes, you're talking about making some specific character tweaks. Are there any of those that, and none were named in the video, are there any you can tell us about that your like characters specifically you're looking to that maybe have either become problematic in the meta or that are you're wanting to power up maybe some characters so that they see more play or anything like that you can share with us?
It's tough. God balance is generally one of the later things we do in the Season 4 or a new season at any time because all of the item and map changes and especially the Worlds Tournament has a great impact on the community perception about who's powerful and who's weak. a lot of gods are going to get buffed or nerfed just because of the item and map changes. So we try to lock those all down first and kind of feel how that's going. So I'd say the god balance is still heavily in progress. I do have about 20 gods with balance changes written down in my patch notes right now. A lot of that still needs to be tested. But the one that I know the community always asks about, and I'm definitely looking at, is Hell. Hell has generally a tricky time being balanced because of her extremely potent AoE heals and then her kind of non-escape, non-range damage kit. So what I'm trying to do with her is do something like we did with Cupid, where every ability is going to be touched, but they're going to still feel like the same ability, right? She's still going to shoot things at the same kind of speed and size and have her same healing stance versus dark stance. That's all of her true identity is going to stay, but we're going to try to adjust these abilities to be a little bit more fair and a little bit more skill and a little bit more applicable widespread as opposed to just being this like heal bot.
Okay. Now, one of the designers actually used a phrase in the video specifically talking about season 4 that made me like excited, but at the same time a little nervous. Mm-hmm. He used the phrase take essentially any god anywhere you want.
Yes.
And what exactly does that mean, and how are you going to take steps to prevent that from becoming a problem? Mm-hmm. Because there are certain gods that, you know, I almost don't want to see this become an excuse for players to take gods that obviously don't work in a certain role. Mm-hmm. Like, and there are those. Like, sure. I don't want people to take this as an excuse to go AD Zeus or whatever. Like, that's not possible, but you get what I mean. That's kind of like an example. How do you prevent that from becoming an excuse players take to be toxic?
Well, honestly, what I'm hoping for is that with our changes, we're really trying to encourage this in the community, is that players should not be toxic to each other just at the pick. Like, right. If you see a person pick an untraditional god in an untraditional role, like, if that player is very good or knows what they're doing, in many cases, they can be successful.
Right.
And we're essentially, from the game design and actually in the way you see the items work, encouraging these new...
I mean, we just saw Jungle Changa. So
right,
like,
and DJ knows how to do that. And he has the build down, and he knows how it works. So there's two things going on. One is the adjustment of the starter items and the way Conquest starts in general is going to change. Mm-hmm. And that might even change which roles go where. Like, honestly, the changes could be large enough for that actually, where we see a shift like that. So for season 4, first thing I want to establish is like, no one should be toxic to anyone for going different places. You can't necessarily assume that there's a god that's going to really not work in a role yet, because we have to see what the changes work out.
Sure, that makes sense.
The second thing is we're adding items that specifically call out specific god plus role combinations, like a warrior support starter item. Typically, warriors could go support. We all know that some good players have been able to do this. We know that some warriors have kits that make sense for this. They generally have similar stats. They just do physical damage instead of magical damage. I personally love playing warriors as more tanky. Now there's going to officially be an item in Season 4 that encourages players to try that. So we're not necessarily encouraging you go warrior ADC, right, which is kind of impossible, and that's one of your examples that makes no sense, really.
Right.
But the roles that at least are the tangent roles, not like the main role, are going to see items that help you focus into
diversify.
That. Right.
Yeah, cool. I do want to take it a little bit to talk about the Morrigan, obviously.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we should.
Yeah. So the big question that we are looking at is why the Morrigan first? Of all the like Celtic deities and things, why her first? What drew you to her specifically and said, you know what, this is the one we need to break the Pantheon open with?
Well, she is also a very royal character in the Pantheon, so she's kind of ahead of the Pantheon in many ways. She's very regal. We wanted like kind of a queen or leader or like big name from the Pantheon as well. Also, the ultimate. So I've been wanting to do an ultimate like this. We've been getting requests forever. Like, this has been bounced around in Hi-Rez for years.
You just kind of saw your opening.
And I was like, the Morrigan, she's a shapeshifter. She has multiple forms. Like, the lore could not be better for this ultimate. Right. And I wanted the new god to not just be big for Season 4 and the new Pantheon in name or personality, but to be big because it's mechanically insane. And like, that was something we really wanted. And I was like, if we couldn't do Morrigan, I had some other ideas for some other gods that would play very differently than normal SMITE gods. But this ability, my lead programmer started working on it 5 months ago. it kind of started working. I kept telling him, hey man, if it's not going to work, tell me and we'll cut it. But he actually got it working, so here we are.
Now, that actually leads into one question I did have. What were some other gods you considered before you finally locked in on the Morrigan?
I don't want to reveal other gods I've considered for Celtic, because those gods are now, coming up in like second and third place and going to be coming later this year probably, right?
Yeah.
So my favorite other Celtic gods, like I can't be spoiling god names, I'm sorry, but there will be some more Celtic gods this year. They'll be crazy, and there'll be, plenty of gods from old pantheons too.
Okay, well, can you maybe give us a hint as to what pantheon might be seeing a new god next?
Sure. I mean, I've been making this statement a lot, is that there's going to be a Hindu god this year. I'm not going to tell you who or when or what type of role or anything like that, but this year there will be one. And the Japanese Guardian is extremely high on the priority list. So Japanese Guardian coming soon.
Fantastic. Well, this has been Ajax. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you on social media?
Follow me at Hi-Rez Ajax is probably the best, or post to the SMITE subreddit. I read everything on the SMITE subreddit, so go there, get some hype generated, and I will see it.
Cool, thanks. I've been Colton Layton for MMOHuts.com. Follow me on Twitter at @bottom_tier, and we will see you next time right here on MMOHuts.com.